Hey everybody, it's Kina. So welcome back to another of my videos. This time I'm painting a thing of orchids, which this was originally a painting that I'm doing for my godfather, who I'm not going to go into specifics, but he's about to be going into the hospital for some pretty serious stuff. And I figured, alright, painting one of his plants, because we're taking care of a bunch of his plants at the moment, would be a neat little thing to do for him to maybe cheer him up or something. Hopefully it works out. So yeah. So along those lines, background information. My dad and I in particular, but my family in general tends to be very planty. I actually just applied for a job at a plant store, and I'm really excited to see if I can get in because I really like plants a lot. But one of the big things is that my dad and I are rather into orchids, and we've been consistently growing them for how long? Certainly since I was in elementary school, so at least 12 years? 12, 13, something like that. So we're a part of an orchid society and everything, and there's all sorts of fun stuff that comes along with it. So when I was originally starting on this, I was actually rather intimidated. It took me a lot longer to start on it than I wanted because I was just not in the mood to paint orchids. I haven't drawn an orchid in the first place for a few years now, and as much as I love doing it, there's still not a shape that I just have under control for myself yet. So I was rather worried about how it was going to turn out originally, but after sketching it about 5 times, I finally came up with something that I liked. I also had a lot of trouble with some of the colors on the first few flowers, particularly that flower at the bottom, because that's the one that I started with. I wasn't really sure how I was going to go about coloring any of them at the beginning. So I was like, let's try this. That didn't work. How about this? Nope. And it took about 3, I think, to really get the idea of what I was actually going to end up doing under control. But once I started actually getting the hang of what I was doing, I was like, oh, hey, this is pretty simple. So that was nice. So I mentioned this in the description of my last video, but just real quickly, let me apologize for the lighting and video quality and such. Unfortunately, I do most of my painting at the desk that my parents use for most work type things, because we don't really have much extra space in the house for me to do much painting, and this is honestly the biggest area that I have where I can put something down and have paint on one side and other supplies on the other and be completely comfortable with what I'm doing. So it's in the basement, so obviously there's not much light, and we don't have very much lighting in here to begin with. So I've got one incandescent lamp to the right, and then what's the other kind of bulb? The long and whiter light ones, fluorescent, that kind of deal, to the left, which is why it's so much brighter on the left than the right. And then my camera is also just, it's really old at this point. I got it middle school or something, and I just, as much as I would love to have a nicer camera, I don't have the money for one. So I just kind of make do with what I got. And mine does not currently like to focus very well, but it produces video, so I'm not going to complain too much. It actually took me a really long time to get the right color of green down. I had to mix the color about 5 different times, and then once I had it mixed I had to go over it as I'm doing here another 2 or 3 times just so I could get the brightness right, because I'd look at the plant, which I had right next to me, and just be like, it seems like that, but it's not quite that, and I want it to be that, but it's not that. And I went back and forth trying so hard to match the color right, and eventually I got somewhere, but it took some time. I also had a bit of trouble following the specific color patterns of the plant. Like, it took me until about this point that you're seeing here to realize, oh, there's spots on the lip. I should probably paint those spots. When it comes to the veins, I was not very confident with the veins. Originally I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do them or not, but when it came to this point I was like, shoot, I kind of need to do them, otherwise it doesn't look right at all. And I really wasn't especially confident in what I was doing with them, and it kind of got worse as they went, which, like, they don't look bad by the time you get there, but just I was not really feeling the way I was painting them. I didn't really feel like it actually worked out right. It didn't look quite like the plant, and I realized right at the end of painting all the veins what my problem was, but alas, it was the end. Either way though, when I actually look at the painting now, I'm kind of like, I caught those veins rather well. I wasn't expecting that. And I'm generally glad with how they came out. Particularly the ones on the sepals, being the outer petals, the top and then bottom two. It's just, I only noticed as I was getting to painting them and just how geometric those ones are compared to the ones on the actual petals, and I was rather proud of myself for noticing. It sounds strange, but that's the way it went. I highly considered not shading this thing. You know, around this point here, I was kind of like, I should shade this, but I really don't want to, because there's a lot going on, technically. I was really not feeling shading it, but eventually I got around to it. I also had about 3 or 4 different ideas for what I was going to do with the background that were all just kind of switching in and out of my head at once, which, that's why originally you saw me painting away from the petal, and then I was like, nah, I should go right up to it. And they all followed the same general idea, which in the end I really like where it came out to, but it originally was kind of messy in my mind. I also really wasn't sure of what color I was going to use for the background when I was starting, because my first thought was kind of like a blue, but I didn't want it to seem too much like the sky, which, you know, I'm not really sure why, but it didn't seem right if it was going to be the sky. So I went with more of a purple to hopefully kind of flow in with the pinkish red tones in the flower, and I think it worked out a lot better than it would have had I gone with blue. And that's about that. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like or a comment. It really gives me incentive to work on things. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.